What if you and I walk into a store to buy eggs? When I get to the egg section, the price for eggs for me is $4.99. But when you get there a minute later, the price for your eggs is $5.29. What is going on here? And is that even possible? Thank you so much for joining me here today at Sisters for Financial Independence. My name is Agopcan, and today we are going to talk about algorithmic pricing. Companies are using your data to create a personal price for the stuff that you want. Here at Sisters for Financial Independence, I cover a wide range of money topics to help you get better with your money. Today's topic gets us at the heart of our wallet. Companies are using all of the data they collect about you to charge you a different price for the things that you want and need. And in this video, we are going to talk about what that means for you and your wallet. Now, I know many of us are trying so hard to save, invest, get out of debt, but there is a system in place and in play that's making it hard. And one of them is the use of these dynamic pricing to understand what we want, what we need, and get us to pay a little bit more. Let's first get a definition. What is algorithmic pricing? Algorithmic pricing is when a company uses complex computer programs, algorithms, and massive amounts of data to decide the absolute highest price you specifically are willing to pay at that exact moment. It's not a single price for everyone, it's a dynamic and personal price for you. In the example I gave you earlier about the egg prices, that's happening now and many of us don't realize it. Thanks to a recent joint investigation by Consumer Reports, A Perfect Union, and Groundwork Collective, they have found that Instacart has been experimenting with new pricing practices using, of course, the latest data and technology. Across all of their tests, researchers have found that Instacart quoted prices for some consumers that were up to 23% higher than those quoted to other customers for the same exact grocery item from the same exact location at the same exact time. I'll have a link to the full report in the description and 2 videos covering this investigation in the description so you can check it out. Last year, the Federal Trade Commission launched an investigation of surveillance and algorithmic pricing. The agency did find that companies were using consumer data like a person's location, demographics, and sometimes mouse movements on a web page to set prices. This is happening and we all need to be aware of it. Now, many of us are already likely familiar with dynamic pricing, in which prices change per supply and demand. If you've ever taken an Uber on a rainy day, you know pricing changes, and oftentimes surge pricing goes into effect when demand is high. So you end up paying more for the convenience of an Uber ride on a rainy day. This kind of dynamic pricing is now very normal for many of us. Another example of dynamic pricing that we are all familiar with is the prices of airlines and hotels. If you've ever searched for a flight, looked again an hour later, and the price went up, you might think it's bad luck. We now know that you were likely a target of algorithmic pricing, which is the hidden way companies use your data against you. Prices change based on your location, time of day, and how many times you've searched. This kind of dynamic pricing isn't necessarily based on supply and demand. It's based on the exploitation of your urgency and your intent to purchase. Because you've searched and browsed a few times, you now have a higher likelihood of actually going through the purchase of that airline ticket or that hotel room. So they know that they can likely jack up the price and you will still buy that ticket. Now, this kind of price changes are happening for our groceries, are necessities for both delivery and in-person purchases. Companies are using location, loyalty, purchase history, and any other data available to find the right price to get you to buy the item. They're watching your digital behavior, meaning surveilling what you're doing online to figure out your price sensitivity. If they see you're using an older phone or an economy browser, the algorithm might think you're price sensitive and offer a lower price. If you're on a high-end laptop browsing from a wealthy zip code and have searched the item multiple times, the algorithm flags you as less price sensitive and your price goes up. This kind of dynamic pricing is easy to update on a digital app, and it's happening more than we think. So now you might pay a little bit more for a box of cereal or a carton of milk because it's something you buy often, and now they know you are willing to pay a bit extra for it. Let's walk through what Consumer Reports and their partners found when they did their investigation. This is one of the sample sets they provided, but you can read more about it in the link in the description. Here is one of the tests that they completed. So in one test, they had 39 volunteers use Instacart to shop at a Safeway in Seattle. I believe these people were in the same location, in the same office or house area, and each one of them placed 20 different products in a virtual grocery basket and captured a screenshot of the prices. Now, they found that Instacart offered shoppers the same basket of groceries at 5 different price points, ranging from $114 to $123. So basically, they bucketed the users into 5 buckets. The difference between the lowest and highest priced basket was $9.59, or 8.4%. Now, they found no price variations for some products, but they did find it for others. Others showed moderate price variations, and some items varied more dramatically in price, with some costing over 20% for some consumers. In the end, the goal of algorithmic and dynamic pricing is to capture as much revenue as possible. So say we have 5 consumers who are shopping for a bag of Spuddy's brand potato chips, and each one of them has a different price sensitivity level. Shopper thinks Spuddy's are by far the best chips and is intensely brand loyal. The company might have data that this particular shopper always buys this brand and is willing to pay up to $7 for the bag of chips. Now, on the other hand, shopper 5 thinks they're fine, but no better than another brand that costs $3. And the others fall somewhere in between. If a retailer sets the price of Spuddy's at $4 across the board, it will sell bags for a total of $16. And that means that they're leaving a lot of potential revenue on the table, what economists call consumer surplus. So there's $6 of consumer surplus that the company was not able to earn as revenue. But if the retailer gets good at using data and algorithmic pricing to estimate how much each shopper is willing to pay, it might sell 5 bags for about $23. That means the company has increased their revenue by selling these bags of potato chips at a higher price and reducing the consumer surplus. Now, this is happening on the apps, but this kind of dynamic pricing is also happening in physical stores via digital price tags called electronic shelf labels, or ESLs. Before, grocery stores would have to manually update prices daily, but now with the introduction of these digital labels, prices can be updated based on real-time demand. It's sneaky, and at this time, many of us are being used as guinea pigs for this kind of pricing experimentation. Now, maybe your store has these electronic shelf labels already, and maybe you just haven't noticed it yet, but now you know to look out for it. Back to the example of the 2 of us walking into a store to buy eggs and one of us leaving with a higher price. That's possible, and that could be happening sooner than you think. So as we are battling lack of wage growth, inflation, we are also now being put into these pricing experiments that leave many of us paying more for the things that we all need. A question that often comes up is, aren't price adjustments normal? And isn't this just the cost of doing business where we're negotiating for different prices? But economists are saying that in this new data-driven world, there is this information inequality where companies know more about us than we do about them. So that leads to an unfair advantage on their side where they can basically charge for anything because they know that we would be willing to pay that price. It's super important for all of us to understand that algorithms are now making most of our decisions on a daily basis. They decide the price that we should pay, they decide the movies we should watch, the books we should be reading. So it's good to take a step back and understand the data you're giving out and understand what's happening with your data when it comes to these algorithms. So what can we do? How do we protect ourselves as consumers? Tip 1 is to clear your tracks. Cookies are still used to collect data about you, and then algorithms use this data to target you. So before you make a major purchase like a flight or appliance, clear your browser history and cookies and use your browser's private mode or incognito mode. Tip 2 is to change your digital identity. So on top of cookies, companies will also use your browser fingerprint, your device ID, your IP address to determine who you are. Where are you browsing from? What zip code? Are you in a wealthy zip code? So try, instead of checking the price on different devices, a phone versus a laptop, or even using a virtual private network, to appear as if you're browsing from somewhere else and see if that changes your price. Tip number 3, don't buy in desperation. If you repeatedly visit the same items page, the algorithm notes your increasing urgency. Walk away for a few hours, use a new browser session, or sign out of your account. Sometimes impatience can cost you money. They know you are desperate and they know that you will be willing to pay any price they give you. Number 4 is to use price comparison tools wisely. Use tools like Camel. For Amazon, use your Chrome browser to track prices. See what the price has been over the last 6 months so you understand if the algorithm is currently inflating it. Make sure you understand what the price has been and what you're willing to pay for it. Tip number 5 is to treat grocery apps like travel sites. If you use delivery apps like Instacart or similar services, remember they are operating like a dynamic retailer. Try checking the price of staples while logged out versus logged into your account. You might see a price difference. They know that you are loyal to that store. They know that you will likely be willing to pay for whatever they present you. So make sure you try these tricks to see if there's a price change. Use again the incognito private browser mode to avoid the algorithm tracking your frequency to purchase, which can signal high loyalty and willingness to pay more. Tip number 6 is to understand the loyalty card trade-off. Now, loyalty cards offer discounts, but they are the biggest data collection tool grocery stores have. Every single item you buy, from baby food to medical supplies, is tracked and linked to your name and address. This data is what informs those personalized offers. But it can also inform the algorithm's understanding of your price inelasticity, meaning how much you need an item and are willing to pay for it. Be aware of the data you're giving up for that discount. The next tip is to use cash. Whenever you use your phone, a credit card, or purchase through an app, every purchase you make can be tied to your digital identity. Now, using cash reduces that, and it can be a great way for you, where it makes sense, to reduce that tracking. Tip number 8 is to support legislation that limits surveillance pricing. There are now over 50 bills on the state level that's looking to do this, as well as a federal bill that was introduced back in July. The goal of all of these bills is to generally prohibit the use of surveillance-based price setting, which is the use of automated systems from using personalized data like information about your browsing history, location history, address, race, gender, or genetics to set different prices for different customers. So if this is something that you don't want done, then make sure you reach out to your state and federal representatives and tell them that a law needs to be enacted to reduce this use. The reality is that the federal government does prohibit businesses, including airlines, from charging customers different prices based on gender or ethnicity. But some of the data being gathered and used by algorithms and AI to set prices, like zip codes or devices used, could be a proxy for gender, ethnicity, and income status, putting these algorithms in a legal gray area. And that gray area is where sometimes most companies will play until legislation is in place to prevent them from doing so. And lastly, know that you can do something about it. Watch your prices. I know that we are all busy and sometimes it's easy to default on tapping that app and getting things at our door. But it's time we stop and take a look at the prices of the things that we are buying. Review your receipts and credit card statements to make sure you are charged the appropriate amount, and you do have control over the data that you give out. So make sure you uncheck those cookie settings, make sure you review the data that's being collected about you, and say no. It's easy to default to accepting whatever the technology tells you, but it also means it's easy to manipulate you. So make sure you understand what's happening with the data and technology that's being used to collect your information. Above anything else, I want you to remember these words from Professor Galloway. He is the professor of marketing at NYU's Stern School of Business.
90% of us will spend everything that comes into our hands. So you want to find saving mechanisms that keep the dollar out of your hand. The smartest people on the planet aren't trying to put a person on Mars or solve world hunger. They're trying to figure out a way to use technology to hit you on a screen at the exact right moment when you're in the exact right move, so they can sell you a pair of Bombas socks with your on running shoes at the exact right moment, or get you to upgrade from economy to economy comfort. It is nearly fucking impossible not to spend as much or more money than you have in this environment. So forced savings are a great way to build wealth.
Algorithmic pricing is not inherently evil, but it does reward companies that know more about you than you know about them. Companies are increasingly using detailed information about their customers to target them with individualized ads as well as individualized higher prices. They may not be advertising it as much, but they're definitely talking about it in their shareholders' reports. By being aware of how they track you, you can take control and ensure you're getting a fair price, not just the highest price you'll tolerate. If you've seen this in action, let me know in the comments. And if this video has been helpful, give it a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to Sisters 4Fi for more consumer tips and money content to help you get better with your money. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sisters for Financial Independence. These other two videos can help you understand what other systems are in place to get you to spend money. I will see you in the next video. Bye.